Hello, and welcome to the Talk Back for Back, which is a fun thing to say.
Say that 10 times fast.
You could make a tongue twister out of it, yeah. My name is Ruben Ryan. I'm the Director of Online Programming for the Center for Applied Drama and Autism. We have some great people here who worked on the show. We have the writer, Susan here. And I'm sorry, Susan, how do you pronounce your last name?
Kies, Sue Leamy Kies is what I go by.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for joining us here. And of course, we have the stars of the show, Brian and Chris. How are you guys doing?
All right.
Great.
We're hoping the director will be joining us soon. Not sure if she's having connection issues or got held up in some traffic or something, but we hope to see her here soon. So Sue?
Yes.
So Sue, what inspired you to write the play?
Well, my son has a friend who went to Afghanistan and got his foot hurt in a roadside bomb. So that kind of gave me the idea. It's all fiction, but I know that it's what he went through was really hard. And so then my mind got working about it all. And then there was a person from our town who was killed over there. So yeah, I just decided there's a story to tell here. And I began with the characters and wanted to play around with the dialogue, and the story just kind of evolved from there.
Excellent. All right. So a fiction story inspired by some true events that you learned of.
Exactly. Yes.
Very nice. So, Brian, why don't you tell us which of the characters you play?
I played a character by the name of Scott, and his character was the victim of a roadside bomb blowing up while serving in the Marines in Afghanistan. And he's kind of hitting a low point in his life. He has very much PTSD, a little bit of survivor's guilt.
Of course, yeah. And Chris, why don't you tell us about your character? Chris, can you hear me? Or is it just...
Oh, yeah, sorry, it cut out right when you said something. I was like, I bet he was talking to me. Yes, I played Kyle. Kyle Scott's high school friend. They've known each other for years. Although I feel in the play that the Kyle maybe couldn't handle the situation that Scott was going through. So he spent some time away from Scott, and has finally sort of worked up the courage to, come and interact with him again. But he feels tremendous guilt, for how he feels, whether that's, not feeling, like he would be able to go and, make the same sacrifice as Scott did. And then on top of that, allowing him to go in the first place. And, sometimes I think a lot of it is, whether he may feel that way or not politically, but he allows his feelings about the word politically to be a shield for his true feelings that he's struggling with. So that was sort of his thing in the play.
Excellent. Cool. And the director has joined us. Excellent. Welcome, Cleo. We're glad you're here. I hope everything's okay. So you directed the show. So this was one of the more dramatic pieces in the festival. What was the directing experience like for you?
Well, I mean, I had a really enjoyable experience. I think working with Brian and Chris made the piece very easy, because we were all on the same page about what the piece was going to be, right? It was a fairly serious piece, but it was also a very heartfelt piece. And, I think that when we read it, we all understood that the relationship between these two men was really what this story was all about. political commentary and everything there also. But to see these two people reconnect was, like a blossoming flower.
Of course.
So, I mean, I had a super enjoyable experience. I think it came together really easily. Like I said, we were all on the same page. And so we had the flexibility and the fun to look at things like our settings and our bodies and do what happened and what the audience saw today.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the piece. I thought it was very touching, very powerful moments in it. I thought you guys acting was really good in it. I could really feel it. It was nice. So Sue, as the writer, what was it like seeing that your words actually performed?
It was really exciting for me. I enjoyed seeing the emotion that Brian and Chris, yes, put into it. I particularly enjoyed, it's awful to enjoy a crying scene, but you did a really, really good job with that, Brian. It's the crying and the emotion and just, yeah, I felt it, and it was interesting to see the words I wrote come to life like that. It really was. And then I loved the humor too that Chris portrayed in the whole Jessica Tilbury scene in the cow and I was happy with that too. I really was. I felt the relationship between you two. It would have been really cool if COVID hadn't happened, and it would have been cool to see you in the same room doing it, because I think it would have been even more powerful. But it was really good the way it was. And like I said, it was very touching to see those words and the characters come to life. So thank you. And the director, you did wonderfully. Thank you, Cleo. It was fun to watch. Thank you.
Since you mentioned that, Sue, I do want to say that actually one of the interesting things is that if we had done this in real life, I mean, in real space, I guess I should say, we might not necessarily have been able to bring the same people together, because that is actually one of the fun things about this project and festival, is that many of us are located in very different parts of the country, and in some of the shows, even the world. So like Brian mentioned, you were in Pennsylvania earlier.
Yes.
Chris, I don't know what
I'm
state.
up in Wickliffe, so I could have
so
come
you're
down to Akron to do it.
You're in Ohio too. Okay, so the two of us are in Ohio.
Yeah.
And Cleo, where are you at?
I am located in Humboldt County, California.
Okay.
I'm up at the top of the state, close to Oregon.
Wow. So see, we've managed to bring people together from all over the country. So that's kind of exciting, kind of a fun thing to do. I mean, you can do that in person as well, but it would have been considerable more expense and extra work to get everyone into the same area. So a question that's been directed to me is, what were some of the challenges in putting this play on in Zoom? And Brian, Chris, Cleo, I'm sure each of you might have some interesting answers to that one.
Yeah, I can start, and then whoever wants to take it can take it away. I think our hardest part was figuring out, how to really, for me at least as the director, I'll start there, was figuring out how to foster this relationship between these men when it is so touching and they can't actually be there to touch each other. There are many parts where Chris, his character, puts a hand on Brian's shoulder, or where they give each other a hug, right? And in these moments, I asked them to experiment with like leaning off screen to look like they were hugging someone. And, Chris puts his hand by the camera to look like it's on Brian's shoulder. And, I think that in the beginning, it's a little comical, like the hugs are a little funny, which actually is good. You know, in such a dramatic piece, we bring a little bit of light to it. But in the moments where Chris reaches past, there's nothing funny. We're there with the character, and we feel that extension and that moment. So, you know, those things are challenging, but they're also enjoyable, I feel, in our piece.
I certainly thought so as well. And that is, having done some Zoom shows myself, that is a real challenge, is lining up those things, like the handover or the passing of something to someone else, because you got because you're not out, the way you think you're doing it may not be the direction you're actually doing it. It's quite a challenge, that too. So Brian, Chris, as actors, what were some of the challenges for you guys in working on Zoom?
Well, truth be told, I never really done something that dramatic before. I mean, I had dramatic roles in the past, but nothing really this serious, and not even as a main character. So, I mean, this is my really forced foray into the drama side of the things. And, but, you know, it wasn't really difficult to really get into character because, believe it or not, I am a military brat.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad was stationed in the Army for more than 20 years as a chaplain.
Oh, wow.
So, and I've seen what PTSD can do to people. So, you know, bringing some of that experience into my character was fairly easy because I've seen and heard a lot of stories in the military and what, you know, how the effects of war can treat people.
Wow.
I mean, the ones who are really willing to talk about it.
Wow. So that's very fortunate for you playing the part, to have just that piece of background already part of your own background. That's,
yes.
Wow, cool. So for you, a lot of it was just the dramatic challenge. For you, this was a stepping outside of your normal acting comfort zone.
Well, you know, because there was a few little, like, you know, like we're talking about the adventures of our lives in the first act. But then when we kind of see my little slide down, so to speak, trying to find the right word for it. Like, you know, when I'm basically ranting about how hard the military life is, and when I basically break down and the PTSD and the survivor guilt really affects my character, I had to really figure out how to show that.
I thought you did a good job.
But thank you.
What about you, Chris? What kind of challenges did you have in performing for Zoom?
Well, in a dramatic piece like this, especially when things become so intense between two people, one of the biggest struggles with Zoom is you've got to be very aware of your tempo and rhythm in order to not allow Zoom to prevent you from talking over each other, which you can do on stage, lovely, and you can create a real, fun rhythm and increase intensity that way. But on Zoom, you have to try to maintain the same intensity, but giving adequate pauses that you may not have given normally, in order to not lose dialogue, because Zoom will cut you right off, and then you lose the words, which is so important.
Yes, that is true about Zoom. It's the way it tries to prioritize audio feeds. It can sometimes be a challenge. And the fact that there's like a minor delay between us all, that's just enough to make it so you can feel it, but also just enough so that you don't notice it right away. Yeah, no.
Right.
I hear you. Yeah, no, I've talking over each other is an easy problem to have in Zoom, for sure. All right, but so yeah. So Brian, you said you normally so I take it from what you were saying, you're used to more comedies?
Yes.
Very cool. What about you, Chris? Are you as familiar with drama as with comedy?
Yeah, I've done both. I've done the gamut of things: some Shakespeare, some Moliere, some farces. So I'll be in pretty much anything. So
okay.
If somebody will cast me, I'm like, all right, that'll be fun. I'll do that.
Cool. Cleo, do you have a preference between drama and comedy, or do you prefer a mixture of both?
I love them both also. You know, I think we've got a pretty well-rounded crew here. But I do a lot of work in physical theater. So that is both drama and comedy in different ways. I do, you know, some like Greek tragedy is very physical theater based. I do a lot of dance work also that's very dramatic. But I also do clown and commedia dell'arte, which are super, super comedy and super, super physical.
Of course.
So
Excellent.
to work on this piece, you know, very dramatic, but also very scripted was, you know, a great pleasure because most of my work is done in a land that is less scripted.
Ah, okay.
Thank you, Sue, for this
I
opportunity.
relate to that.
Yes.
So let's talk about the themes of the show.
Mhm.
So there's a number of things that come up in this play. Comments of disability, patriotism, possibly even some other messages that you came across while you were working on the piece. Let's open it up about disability first, and do feel free, any of you who have thoughts on this, to chime in. So in the story, Brian's character Scott has, of course, lost a part of his leg, or part of his leg, to an improvised explosive device. So that is a thing that happens a lot. Is frequently people come back to the military, back from the military, with disabilities they may not have had when they left for it. So Susan, you wrote the play, and that's clearly a theme you put into it. Would you like to say anything on that?
Well, I did, like I said, I wanted to explore that because our son had a friend who came back, and they had a parade for him, and, you know, celebrated his, you know, patriotism and heroism. And but I just knew, you know, behind the scenes, it wasn't as simple as all that. And it wasn't, you know, just the hero thing. And, you know, like I said, I fictionalized this. It's all fiction. I don't know the struggles, but being a writer, I imagine these things. So, yeah, the whole idea of a disability and coming back with PTSD, having that trouble fitting in to kind of, you're a different person now, kind of, than he was before. He wasn't the same, or he's not the same, and he's having a hard time sorting this out. And then you throw in the whole idea that his friend lost his life, and he came back, and his friend didn't. And you throw that into the whole mix of it, and he had a lot of things to work through. So that's what I was kind of shooting for, is looking for all this going on. So the outward disability is his leg, obviously, but there's so much more going on beneath that. And that's what I was trying to explore. So.
Of course, excellent. That's an excellent point. When I asked that question, I was primarily thinking of his leg, but of course, PTSD and various traumas also have their own type of mental or emotional disability that come with that. That's a great point. Cleo, as the director, would you like to expand on any of these about
Yes. Yeah. So Brian and I had a rehearsal where it was just us. We worked on, you know, how he was going to physicalize losing a part of his leg. And, you know, it came very natural to him. And it, I'm sure, has something to do with, as he said, having experience with, you know, people that have come back from war and are willing to talk about it. You know, but we found a way that we thought we could communicate him having a prosthetic leg, you know, something that he could still walk, but his body would be a little bit different. And then we did, I think, explore, you know, the mental and emotional disability a little bit more. I think we also, in the rehearsal process, felt that as the disability of focus also. rather than the outward disability. Which, I mean, is also something beautiful, that it wasn't really a disability if we, if he can live his life and feel good, which by the end is the case.
That's a great point. That is very true. Yes, if it was not included in the story, I actually would not have even thought about his leg, because it does not, because he does seem to have more of an emotional hindrance to his life. That's a good point. Well, Brian, we've been talking about you. Do you have anything you'd like to add to anything that's been said about that?
Well, I mean, we still kind of live in a world where mental illness isn't always taken seriously. And I think because of a piece like this, I mean, if we can help normalize the fact that there are people who go through this, there are people who have all these things in their brain and they don't know how to talk about it because, we have a mental breakdown and some people will just point and laugh at us and just like say, oh, look at the freak over there. So if we can tell people, hey, there are people in this world who have been traumatized and they don't want to talk about it, if we could just let them. Like I remember Carrie Fisher, who is people may know as Princess Leia from Star Wars, she was a big advocate for trying to normalize depression and anxiety and trying to live with past traumas. So, she's someone I look up to because, I mean, I've myself have even fought depression. I mean, not to the level that my character or people in the military have done, but, we just need to tell people mental illness is real.
Well put. Well put. So, so Chris, a big part you have in the show is that you and Brian sort of get, you and Brian's characters sort of get into, so I guess you could call it a philosophical argument or debate or discussion over the nature of sort of patriotism and the soldiers' function in the war. Which is a nice part between you guys. What do you have any thoughts on those themes?
Sure. I mean, it sounded like a very real conversation. I've heard those, some of what my my character said was very based in rhetoric. So I'm thinking that at least some of it was clearly a mask for his just discomfort in handling, what he saw happening to his friend. However, there were a lot of seeds of, discussions of the inequality, of the classes in America and how the tendency for people who already have wealth and privilege don't need to necessarily take the opportunity to go into the military to give themselves a leg up, economically, whereas, a lot of people who have less when they start out view that as one of the only options they have for potential upward mobility, and the potential cost of that, whether that be mental or physical, isn't worth it, and is maybe something that, people are so desperate for a leg up don't really think about what could potentially happen to them, or what the long lasting implications of what they're doing or what they're being a part of, and especially war in general can be such a touchy issue as to why why you're doing it, what's the reason, because it's really all dependent on who's in charge and what they think the reasons to go to war is, and whether society as a whole considered one war from another justified. So there was a lot of discussion of that between the two of us, and I thought it was a very interesting conversation. That was one of the reasons I was attracted to the piece.
I will say, Susan, to expand on what Chris said there, when I saw that scene, I did think to myself that it really did sound like a conversation I had heard people having about these topics before. So that was very realistic and relatable.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because that was my goal. It actually was a similar conversation that some friends, we had one New Year's Eve about all this. That was very memorable.
That makes sense.
Some disagreements and some, it was, yes. So it's based on that too. Yeah, a little bit. And thank you. I was worried whether the dialogue was too, how it would come off. So.
Well, I can definitely
Wanted
say specifically that part when it came on, I was like, I feel like I've heard these before. I feel like I've heard this conversation before. Cleo and Brian, would you guys like to add any other commentary to the themes of patriotism in the show?
Well, there was even the part where Chris said, I may not support the war, but I have, a lot of respect for you. I have, he's basically saying, just because he's not a fan of the war doesn't mean that he's not supportive of the people who fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very important distinction to make. I think a lot of people probably make that distinction.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the reasons that I also liked the piece, is because it felt, regardless of, any other political portion of it, it did feel very respectful to the people involved in those conflicts, rather than, a full-on critique of everything, and then losing the human element and, the potential human losses. And that was one of the reasons that I really was attracted to the piece when we got cast in it.
It seems more natural than exploitative. That's
right, exactly.
Of course.
Yeah, I think that those conversations are one of the things that actually attracted me to the piece also. I think those are super important conversations that people tend not to have. And so to see a conversation like that performed on stage allows us to open those conversations in our lives. And it, as Chris said, it is super important that we show something that still cares for the people. And Sue did an amazing job at that. And so in doing the show, I kind of felt that those, exactly like everyone is saying, those are conversations that I would have with my friends, with my family members. And I do have, friends and family that are in or have been in the military. And I have shared, similar sentiments of like, why do you go? Like, what are you looking for in this? Right. And that's not to not support the person, because as we're all saying, you can absolutely separate questioning the authority of the war versus questioning the people who are fighting for our country, and I think it's also super special that our show premiered on this holiday weekend. So when that weekend was offered, I was absolutely, yes, we will do a show that weekend. But yeah, I think that there are many levels to patriotism, right? And we all have to find where we fit. And so to have these conversations is key.
Excellent. So I have received some comments that we have received from our audience and also on the Facebook stream that we're doing now. Comment from audience: I watched the play back, a good, realistic play. Both actors performed well. The next comment is from our Facebook live stream. I can relate to this show because I had a cousin in the Army. They did an awesome job. All right, and the next one here, and actually this one sort of touches on a thing you mentioned, Cleo. An important play to present over the 4th of July weekend. There are no easy answers when war is involved. So those are some nice comments we've received so far. Did you guys feel like there were any other messages or themes we have not discussed yet or brought up?
Well, I can say that I think the theme and the power of friendship is so important and was so important to this show. You know, like I personally, I have friends that are my family. You know, they matter so much to me. And to see, you know, this friendship of these characters, you know, it's in a rocky place. And friendship can always come back. It's all about the amount of work and the amount of care you put in. So I think, you know, the theme of friendship is huge. And then to also think that friendship can change so much for an individual. You know, so to see, you know, Scott, the character, really come back to his life and come back to himself by just one person caring for him, the extra mile, you know, and that's a very real thing in life that we as people can provide to our friends. And yeah, again, to see it on stage is important.
That we should all be so lucky to have a character like Chris's. Kyle?
Yeah.
Was
Kyle.
Kyle, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that we should all have a Kyle in our lives. All right. Would anyone else like to comment on the theme of friendship?
Yeah, at the end, when Scott has this complete 180 transformation from, you know, like miserable slob drinking all day to, you know, someone with, you know, more of a better outlook on life. Like, you know, like he really appreciates more of his Purple Heart. Like, you know, I survived and I can live to tell the tale. It's because he had that one friend who was willing to listen and willing to just let him cry and let him, you know, talk about why Scott feels that way. So I think it's just important if you have someone who will just let you talk, like let you be frustrated, let you be mad, and like really try to understand what's really going on with you.
I like how you all emphasized the back part of it, because I had a hard time knowing what to name this play. And you were all talking about how he's back, he came back to who, you know, and so I'm glad you emphasized that or saw that, because that was the idea of calling. He's not just back from, you know, his assignment over there, and he comes back literally as well. So yeah.
Nice. Very well put. All right. All right. Oh, we have an ask from the audience. Wait, I'm sorry. Sorry, no, my bad. We would like to ask the audience if they have any questions that they would like to ask the cast, writer, and director of the show. So if you have a question you would like to ask, you may either put it into the chat.
Yeah, we're good.
Or that's Samir. You don't have to respond if you don't have a question. That's you don't have to let us know when you don't have one. That's okay. But if there's any questions that Kathy or the Reverend Terry Walsh here would like to ask us, either in the chat, or if they'd like to turn on their camera and ask us more personally, that's fine as well. Either whatever they're more comfortable with. While we're hopefully waiting for some questions from them, just would like to take a moment to promote the rest of our show and promote the rest of the show, and I mean the festival itself. We do have this festival running through August. So we have a few more shows. The next show coming up is the Bookstore of Doom, opening this upcoming weekend. So please do check that out. It's sure to be a great show. I've seen it. It's very different from this show. It's wildly more. This is a very nice, realistic show, and this is a little bit more surreal. But I definitely recommend people coming out to check that out as well. You can get the tickets the same place you got your tickets for the show. For our website, the centerforada.org. Big button there, help buy the tickets. If you would like to see all the shows in the festival, you can also sign up for one of our sponsor levels. For a sponsorship, I believe starting at $25 will get you access to all the shows in the festival. So we do recommend that, which technically is cheaper than paying to see each of them individually. Just to let everyone know.
Hey, Ruben, can I make a comment?
Of course.
Hi, I'm Wendy. I'm part of the Center for Applied Drama and Autism. We've never done a one-act play festival before, and we've certainly never done one online, virtually. So it kind of changed and evolved as we started doing the plays. And we realized that we want to make this accessible for everybody. So not only did we do a straight out version of each play, we did an American Sign Language version, a closed caption version, and an audio description version, which you can get access to when you buy a ticket. And it's kind of fun to watch all the different versions and realize how powerful it is when you make your theater accessible for everybody. Because usually we don't. We don't in real theaters and we don't online. And we have worked very hard to learn how to do this. And we would encourage you to steer your friends who don't hear so well or see so well to our website so that they can enjoy these productions. Also, we are extending the availability. If you missed any of the plays, you can go to our Square site and buy a ticket for the early ones. You can still watch them. If you buy a ticket, we'll send you the code. And all the plays are going to be up all summer long. So don't feel bad if you missed an early one, and you can certainly watch back for the rest of the summer. Just go to our website, buy a ticket. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Wendy. In other news, we also have an improv show from Center for Applied Drama and Autism's students and comedians that we work with. We'll be appearing. It's every last Friday of the month. This month that will be July 30th, and that show starts at 7:30 on a Friday. So if you would like to support the Center for Applied Drama and Autism, please come out to, it's currently virtual, so please buy a ticket and join us on Zoom for that. Our actors put on a great show, and they just love to play. So please do check that out as well. Once again, that's July 30th at 7:30. I believe you can buy tickets in the same places. Let me actually pull up the schedule here for the for our festival. Just give everyone a clear idea of what we've got going on here. Share screen is always a little bit tricky sometimes. All right. One day I'd like to figure out how to expand this before I open it. All right. But so like I said, this upcoming weekend, we have the Bookstore of Doom is opening. And actually, if he's still here, was written by Samir, who you saw pop on a little bit ago. After that, we'll be opening July 16th is the dinner party. And The Case of the Missing Jewelry will be July 30th. And the final show of our festival will be More Than Meets the Eye, opening August 13th. So please do check out those shows. Yeah. And also we have if anyone is interested in learning more about working with students with disabilities, the Center for Applied Drama and Autism is also going to be offering some teacher workshops in August. So if you're interested in learning more about education in these fields, please do check those out. They're very valuable. You can learn a lot if you're interested in working in these fields. So definitely check that out. Also, you can find more information about all of these things on our website, thecenterforada.org. All right. I guess I guess I'm going to say last call for our audience members if they have any questions or even just comments. If you just want to say how much you enjoyed the show or anything you noticed about it.
We loved it.
Well, I'm glad you loved it, Samir. I'm glad you loved it. Samir, always full of enthusiasm.
Just wanted to say thank you to the center for providing this opportunity, especially in the pandemic before a lot of local theaters were opening up for performers to be able to show their abilities on here. So this is a great organization.
Thank you. That was the inspiration. We were like, well, we still need to be doing things. Let's do them online. So we're happy to provide such an opportunity to everyone involved. Thank you so much. All right. Does anyone have any final thoughts they'd like to share about either your performances, the show itself, anything you feel is important that we just haven't touched on yet today?
Well, we have touched on this, but I do want to circle back to how Wendy brought up the fact that there are many different accessible versions of the show. And as someone who, I try to be as accessible as possible and still hadn't thought about a show with audio descriptioning, right? A show with an ASL translator. So there's always more we can do. And to be a part of this has taught me so much as a director about accessibility and about, how to reach audiences. And I just want to thank Kata for, giving me that opportunity and creating, hopefully a network that will be here in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
The accessibility is a big thing. Honestly, that's a thing we've learned just recently. Previously, we had been doing virtual shows with closed captioning, but recently we had our minds expanded to understanding the other ways that we can make these performances more accessible. And audio description for the visually impaired is one of those things, and the ASL is another. And we're happy to offer these options. We're working with a great ASL interpreter named Sarah. She's doing a fantastic job on these pieces. And you actually did your own audio description for this piece. You did a wonderful job. It is a big part of what we're trying to do, and we want to make everything more accessible. Excellent. All right.
I would like to say thank you too. I'm a retired English teacher, high school. So I've worked with students. I worked in special education. I've worked with students with disabilities and such. And so I have some understanding, but I have to say, I wish I didn't know your organization existed before this. And I will certainly, mention it to teachers that I still know that are still in the business. Because I do think this offers so much for students. So I really appreciate what all of you did in bringing my words I just love to write. So it was so appreciated that you did such a good job. Director, actors, thank you. It was wonderful. Really, thank you.
Thank you for writing it. All right.
I just wanted to hop on and say thank you all for your hard work on this project. You all were wonderful. I've received many compliments about this play in particular. So please share with your friends and family that it's available. Your work should live on.
Absolutely.
And I'll just jump on this thank you train and say thank you to everybody, because it was such a smooth and enjoyable process. And yeah, I'm just grateful for this experience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cleo. Thank you, Ruben, for being a great host.
I try. Thank you. Thank you for having me. All right. Well, then I will also thank everyone for doing fantastic work whether it be writing, directing, acting. I thought everyone did a fantastic job. And editing, technically, you also did your editing. So, you know, you're doing great on a bunch of fronts here.
All right, everybody, get out there and see back.
Yeah.
Get back to back.
And buy your tickets at the Bookstore of Doom.
Yes.
Bye,
Isn't that right, Samir?
Yeah. Bye, Samir. We're looking forward to your play next weekend.
You too? Thank you.
I can't wait to see it also.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, Samir. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, Facebook.
Bye.
And everyone.